Hello everyone, it's very likely we all have suffered this, so you'll know what we're talking about. Meetings inside the organizations we work for often take too long, are ineffective and unproductive. Nevertheless, meetings are an essential part of our work. No matter where you live or what you do, it's how we decide. We believe that the problem is not the meeting itself, but the way they are poorly conducted, allowing deviations from the main topic, or worse, when meetings create the atmosphere in which the people involved fall into frustration, confusion, and apathy, which can, in turn, lead to bad decision making. When trying to overcome this problem with an innovation, one immediately faces several of the constraints discussed on the Leading Strategic Innovation course. The most frequent ones are those in the internal end of the chart, dealing with individual, group, and organizational issues, but one can argue that societal matters can also apply. After group discussion and research, we all agreed that the Japanese presentation technique of Pecha was the simplest way to tackle the problem. It basically consists of reducing your presentations to 20 slides that take 20 seconds each for a total time of a little under 7 minutes. So that is precisely what we're doing to present our Studio Mastery Track innovation called Short and Sweet. This is a 20-slide, 20-second per slide presentation to show what kind of constraints we found are key to foresee in order to implement Pecha in your organization with lesser trouble. As mentioned, one of the first barriers you'll face are individual constraints. People are terrified to talk in public, more so if their jobs are at stake. Poor presentation skills lead them to write down everything on a slide, making the presentation safe for them but extremely boring for the audience. To overcome this, human resources teams in our companies agreed to brief key stakeholders in the importance of time management, effective planning, and goal settings. Also, they allocated resources to train these leaders in presentation skills that they will, in turn, enforce and coach to their own teams. Then you'll face two group constraints. Most of us don't have the time to write down and practice presentations, and we're afraid to go moo in public and embarrass ourselves. Also, groups tend to interrupt presenters and meetings deviate. Pecha forces the audience to wait until the end to ask. Maybe the answer lays ahead or it's not relevant. In order to rise above this, general management had to commit to the idea and make it mandatory in some presentation scenarios. This way, people took it serious and practiced to avoid embarrassment. Also, empowered meeting leaders were appointed to restrain deviations and stop bad meeting habits and improper interruptions. There are also unaccounted organizational constraints. Presentation skills are not required for most office jobs, even though it's part of their day-to-day. Since this is not core, it's difficult that the organization considers it strategic and allocates the time and money to train and enforce these techniques. Another organization constraint has to do with the fact that in big companies, people get limited access to their bosses. Because of this, whenever employees get a chance, they want to show all they've done and highlight results which can even be unrelated to the topic at hand. For the first constraint, one can simply take the agenda of the top executives in the organization and cross it with their paycheck. The resulting figure will enlighten decision makers on what unproductive meetings are costing and the opportunity cost of having their top execs tied up in them. For the second one, human resources and top-rank executives have to commit to open up proper communication channels, acknowledgements, and career development plans that free employees of the urge to present all their professional achievements the first chance they get. Finally, for us living in Latin America, social behaviors and cultural aspects also become a constraint in this endeavor. We're not precisely the most planned out, objective-driven, rigorous society in the world. Social protocol expects salutations, introductions, gossiping, and even the occasional joke which deviate meetings from their objective. This is probably the most challenging constraint of all, since history, identity, and social control mix to create the perfect storm of meetings. It's something so embedded that will immediately trigger the question, why should I embrace that change? To preserve the status quo. Even though it's mandatory and stakeholders are committed, it takes much more than that to overcome this constraint. To do so, we have to go back to group constraint techniques and create a safe environment where individuals feel safe to practice their first Pechachka presentations. We also have to ensure a culture that demands, expects, and rewards effective and respectful usage of other people's time, understanding it as one of the most valuable assets an organization has. This has to be done through exercising social control and establishing these practices as part of the employee's annual performance evaluation. In order to document and perceive results, organizations should establish a specific amount of time they expect their top executives to spend reflecting and generating ideas. This, in turn, can be objectively measured in the amount of time freed in their agendas. And the deliverables, with ideas and new initiatives they'll be required to turn in, taking advantage of their recently gained time. Also, human resources can conduct a quarterly online tracking to check the employee perception of meeting efficiency and areas to improve. So, that's it for this Pechachka presentation on why to implement Pechachka as an innovation. Though simple, logical, and desirable, it's pretty clear that if you don't tackle constraints early on, it's very likely that the innovation has no adoption. We hope this comes in handy. Thank you.